You can use any yarn that says it's a 4 medium weight. And there's also a lot of yarns out there that have a similar look to this. It's not wool, but it does look a little bit like wool. But just make sure your yarn says 4 medium and the pattern should work. And I'm going to use a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. And you need scissors and a crochet needle and a stitch marker. I have used this pattern on 2 different size balls. The smaller one is a 2.36 and the bigger one is a 2.75. The pattern works the same on both. The only difference is going to be the larger one, the pattern is going to be just slightly stretched out a little bit more. It's not very noticeable, but there are some places that you can see the clear ball underneath where the stitches are stretched a little bit more. So the smaller size, it's going to be a little bit more tight, bulky. So the one on the right is the smaller ball, and you can see the larger ball. You can see a little bit of the clear showing through. But if that's the size ball you have, it'll still work. And I have made a whole bunch out of both sizes. And for this particular tutorial, I will be using the smaller size ball. We're going to start with a magic circle. And if you've never done a magic circle before and you need to practice, I do have a video just on that if you want to practice that first. And I will leave a link in the description box for that. And inside the circle, we're going to put 7 half double crochets. And then pull the tail to close the circle. And the next row, so row 2, is going to be increase stitches. We're going to put an increase stitch in every one of your 7 half double crochets. And we are not going to join the rounds. We are going to work in a continuous circle. So put 2 half double crochets in every stitch, and I'm going to work the tail in. This is where you put your stitch marker. Make sure you put your stitch marker in the first stitch of every row because it's pretty easy to lose track of where your new row starts. And I'm just going to trim that tail up because it's a little bit long. And I'm going to continue working the tail in as I go around. And increase stitches all the way around. And I'm at the end of row 2. The next row is going to be a repeat of 1 half double crochet and an increase. And then you're just going to repeat that in every stitch. Half double crochet and increase. And at the end of row 2, you should have 14 stitches. So that's my half double crochet, and then I'm going to put my stitch marker back in. And the next stitch is an increase. So 2 half double crochets in that stitch. And then repeat. And at the end of row 3, you should have 21 stitches. And for row 4 is going to be a single crochet in every stitch. So put your single crochet and replace your stitch marker. And then continue making single crochets in every stitch. And again, at the end of this row, you should have 21 stitches since we did not do any increases. And now we're going to go into our pattern. So take your stitch marker off, and we're going to put a bean stitch in that first stitch, but instead of going into the normal spot, we're going to jump down to the row below, and that's where we're going to insert our hook for the bean stitch. And this entire row is going to be alternating a bean stitch, a single crochet, and a bean stitch. So the bean stitches will go into the row below, but the single crochet will go into the regular place. So to do a bean stitch, you insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, that's 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over, insert your hook into the same place, yarn over, pull through. You now have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through. You should now have 6 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. So you're inserting your hook into that spot 3 times, and that is your bean stitch. And then replace your stitch marker. And then the next stitch is just a regular single crochet. And then continue repeating with your bean and single, bean and single all the way around. And again, you will have 21 stitches at the end of this row. And at the end of that row, you should also have 21 stitches. So take your stitch marker off And now we're going to alternate, and this row is going to start with a single crochet. Replace your stitch marker. And the next stitch is going to be a bean stitch. So now you will continue. That's where you're going to insert, right in the row below. So you should be going in between two bean stitches from the previous row. So do your bean stitch, and then you're going to repeat single crochet, bean stitch, single crochet, bean stitch until you get to the end of the row. And now we will continue to alternate the way we start the row. So this time we will start the row with a bean stitch and then do a single crochet, repeat. And then the next row will start with a single crochet. So we're going to do a total of 10 rows, alternating the way you start. So start with the bean and the next time start with a single crochet until you have 10 rows of this stitch. If you need to count to see how many rows you have, the little bean stitches, just know that if you're counting them diagonally like this, every single one is not going to be 10. Some of the ones in the beginning where you started will have 9. So just kind of go around a few into the middle from the stitch marker, and just make sure there's a row in there that has 10. And then this is the end of my 10 rows. So now we're going to start the decrease stitches, and I'm going to switch to single crochets at this point. And so do one single crochet. And then do a decrease single crochet. And then at this point, I'm going to put the ball in. So this is the larger of the two small balls. This is the, I believe it's a 2.75. So just want to show you, even though I'm not putting this one in right now, I want to show you what it will look like if you're doing the larger of the two sizes. And then I'm actually going to do the smaller 2.36 ball. You can see it goes in much easier. So when you do your decrease stitches on the smaller balls, you need to make sure you're pulling tight so that it closes in nice and tight. So now I'm going to continue doing a single crochet. and a decrease single crochet. And you're going to do that for the remaining row. When you get to the end of that row, you should have 14 stitches. And our last row is going to be all decrease stitches, but instead of doing a decrease single crochet, we're going to do a decrease slip stitch. So to do that, you insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then instead of yarning over like you do for the single crochet decrease, immediately pull through those last loops. And that is a slip stitch decrease. So put your stitch marker back and continue to do those slip stitch decreases all the way around. And at the end of this row, you should have 7 stitches. If you are doing the larger of the small balls, which is around a 2.75, when you get to the last row here, you can choose to do all of your decrease stitches, the decrease single crochet. The reason I do the slip stitch here is because the ball is so small and I really need it to tighten up there at the end, but I do like how the bean stitches come up closer to the top. So if you're doing the larger ball and you do the slip stitches in a single crochet, it will not give you as much tightness at the top. So it's up to you which way you want to do. You could try it both ways and see which way you like it to be. So when you complete that, cut your yarn and make a little knot at the top. And then get your crochet needle. And we're just going to weave that tail in across the top. And that's it. So that's the larger ball. And this is the smaller one.